Eers and Beers, episode 42. What's on tap? They finally did it. God bless. We're finally back in the win column after nearly a month on the schneid. But first, I'm Wesley Euler, one half of the Eers and Beers podcast. And as always, what are we drinking, folks? I'm still on that Molson. Prost. Oh, yeah. You gotta cheers the microphone after one like that. 79-63 over the Cyclones at the Coliseum. Mountaineers back in the win column. You just needed to stop the bleeding. You just needed to win for everyone's sanity. For my sanity, for your sanity, for Mountaineer Nation's sanity, for the team's sanity, for Bob Huggins' sanity, everyone's sanity. You needed to win by any means necessary. But you know what? You won pretty impressively tonight. Yeah, there were some tense minutes there at the end of the second half. But for the most part, you won pretty handedly, pretty comfortably, and a lot to like there with that performance this evening at the Coliseum. First and foremost, Taz Sherman back. 16 points to lead the Mountaineers in scoring. And while he wasn't as active in the second half as he was in the first half, still, just Taz controlled that game in large part, it felt like. And that was just a reminder, like his presence means so much to this team. He's the veteran, he's the leader, he's the best player, he's the calming influence. And it was great to see him back and hit the ground running in stride after the concussion last Saturday against the Baylor Bears down in Waco. You never know how that works with concussions. Sometimes it's, not much of a deal at all. Other times effects can linger for a while. You never know how that first game back, those first couple games of back are going to be. Great to see Taz look like himself tonight. The team needed it. I think he needed it as well too. And that's going to bode well going forward the rest of the season. His presence just means so much to this team. You can't afford to lose him any more than you already have this year. He's missed time due to COVID. He's missed time with concussions. You need him out there for these last 8 games for this home stretch. Especially in the midst of a 7-game losing streak, you needed him to be that guy tonight, and he was for this team. His 16 points doesn't jump off the scoring sheet, but his presence was clearly felt. So let's get into some takeaways as again, the Mountaineers stop the bleeding, get a much needed win, and still, for now, have salvaged the season. We'll talk about that a little bit more in just a minute. You bounce back at the free throw line after shooting poorly at the free throw line, against Texas Tech and not poorly, but not as well as you had since the UAB game. You bounce back at the free throw line today, 25 of 29. And that was important in those tight moments down the stretch where Iowa State was able to cut it to a single-digit game. Your prowess at the free throw line tonight was the difference in those tight moments late. That's why you still had an 8-point cushion, pardon me, when the Cyclones went on a little bit of a run, is because you were knocking down free throws and they weren't. WVU 86% from the charity stripe. Iowa State 55%. That played a big part in giving you still that margin for error when the Cyclones did make it a single-digit game down the stretch. You also, I thought, played some of your best team defense in the first half. Not as well in the second half, but in the first half, that's the blueprint the rest of the way. Obviously, though, the biggest takeaway tonight, aside from the win, aside from stopping the bleeding, aside from getting back in the win column and getting this thing moving in the right direction again, is you got away with having way too many turnovers tonight. Season high 20. You can't have that period in this conference, but especially not at home. And I know Iowa State, that's what they do. They play good team defense. They force turnovers. They thrive off of that. Now, that was the good news. You were able to, not let them run away with it in terms of points off of turnovers, particularly in the first half. First half, WVU had 8 turnovers, but Iowa State only scored 3 points off those 8 turnovers. That was important. You didn't let them capitalize on your mistakes. getting back to what I was saying about this team playing really good team defense in the first half. But you're not going to get a ton of wins in this conference turning the ball over that many times. That's a big part of why Iowa State almost got back into this. You only had what was the stat I had here? Sorry, hold on one second. Just way too many turnovers. You finish with 20 again. I'm sorry, I'm whooshing here a little bit. You finish with 20 turnovers again. These Molsons are going down too smooth. And that's, you got away with it tonight. Iowa State, a team though that has typically capitalized on that in the past. Big thing though, you limited second chance points. Another area where, throughout this 7-game losing streak that you've been able to point to as a concern, as an issue, this team has given up too many second chance points. A big part of that has been you've lost the rebounding battle at times. That was better tonight. And in fact, you won 37-28 was the final tally on the glass. This team, particularly against Texas Tech on Saturday, you could point to that game. You could point to Baylor the last Saturday down in Waco. You had a pretty sizable disadvantage on the glass, and that led to more offensive rebounds for your opponent. That led to more second chance points. Well, guess what? You gave up 2 second chance points in the first half, 2 second chance points in the second half, just 1 second chance basket in each half. That's a big part of why, despite the turnovers, you were able to still win by a comfortable margin by 16 points. And, I guess just last takeaway here, as we start to wrap this thing up, you finally finished. We talked about this Saturday after the loss against Texas Tech, where WVU was up 6 points at halftime and ended up losing that game. This team hasn't had a ton of full 40-minute efforts, full first and second half performances this season, and obviously throughout the 7-game losing streak. It was, first time in damn near a month that this team played a full 40 minutes. And that's why you won by 16 points, and now you're feeling pretty good. You're not out of that hole that you dug yourself yet, but the road ahead is much easier, and you're still not buried at 14-9. You got 8 games left. You go 4-4 in those games, you've got a chance to be a tournament team, particularly if you win a game or two in the Big 12 tournament. You go 5-3 in these last 8 games, I think you're in. The road ahead is much easier than the one that you just navigated. Yeah, during that 7-game win streak, you needed to find a way to win at least 2 of those games. You didn't. But tonight, was if you include tonight's game, you had 9 games left. Now 8 after the win against Iowa State. So if you looked at it as a 9-game clip, you needed to get at least 5 of those. You got the first one. Good start. 4-4 keeps you in it in these last 8 games. 5-3, I think, gives you a really good chance to be a tournament team. You go to Oklahoma State on Saturday now, and then to Kansas State on Monday. You do one of those little, 2-day or 2-game swings, weekend and early in the week. And then back home at the Coliseum against Kansas. Then you go to TCU, to Iowa State. You host Texas. You go to Oklahoma, and you host TCU. You're going to be favored in a few of those games. You won't be favored against Kansas. Probably won't be favored against Texas. But you've got a chance to be favored in some of those games. If you look at KenPom right now, they predict WVU to go 4-4 in those games. So that means, you're favored in about half of your games the rest of the way. If you could get Kansas at home, if you could get Texas on the road, because that is one thing, to be fair, for this resume, this team does still lack a signature win. UConn seemed like one at the time, but not really. It'd be nice if you could get a Kansas. It'd be nice if you could get a Texas. Get a top 20 win. Kansas top 10 would be even better. But that's what you did tonight. You stopped the bleeding. You salvaged the season. You're still in it now. Again, you haven't completely dug yourself out of that hole yet, but you've at least started to with the win tonight. You got 8 games left still. There's a lot of opportunity there. And the good news is you're out of the shit. I mean, you've navigated the toughest part of your schedule. And now, other than, again, probably against Kansas, you're not going to be, even in the games that you're an underdog, you're not going to be vastly, favored against. Because even against Texas, you get them at home. TCU twice, Oklahoma State, Kansas State, Oklahoma on the road. Those are all winnable games. Let's take this nice, comfortable win tonight. Let's continue to build. Good night for Jalen Bridges. Let's continue on that. Some great things from Seth Wilson. We talked about seeing more of him on the podcast over the weekend. Why didn't we see him against Texas Tech? I don't know, but encouraging moments from him tonight. McNeil, he still needs to shoot the ball more than 6 times, but 13 points tonight. Curry had 14 points tonight. He was really solid at the free throw line. 10 of 11 at the stripe was Malik Curry. Keep this up. And I think you're going to be good come Selection Sunday. I don't know if we're all going to be comfortable. We might still have to sweat it out a little bit, but I think you'll be in. You stop the bleeding. Now let's go stack some W's. How about that? And let's start Saturday against them stinking cowpokes of Oklahoma State. All right, that's going to do it for this reaction pod. I will talk to you guys Saturday after the Oklahoma State game, where hopefully we'll have 2 wins in a row and we'll be starting a winning streak. And before I go, I'm going to take one more swig of this Molson and remind you our running bit here on the Ears and Beers podcast. Your starting quarterback Thursday, September 1st at Heinz Field against the Pitt Panthers in the backyard brawl is going to be Will Goose Crowder. Take care now. Bye-bye then. Talk to you guys on Saturday. Let's go Mountaineers. We're back, baby. Let's go drink some beers.